As Taylor showed, that there are very real-world applications for this technology today, and they show amazing potential for things that we could do in the future. The last person I'd like to invite to the stage is someone who works for Autodesk. He is the Director of Emerging Technology for our Office of the CTO, and I'd like to welcome Brian Penny to talk a bit about Autodesk's point of view.
So I'm really excited to be here today because we're truly seeing some amazing things happening in light of storytelling, but also in gamifying experiences for design. And before I get into the core of my talk, I'd like to give you a little prelude about the power of storytelling. Stories have been around forever, and stories and narrative have basically been delivered across media ever since Cro-Magnon man learned how to apply mineral pigments to the sides of rocks and caves. And a well-told story can captivate, engage, inspire, and motivate us towards new heights of understanding. Whether we're chronicling life, we're communicating with others, or we're creating an inspirational image, storytelling is the key to unlocking understanding through human experience. Now, if we take a look at the history of communications, today we can sort of see that game design is at the forefront. And it's branching out into new territories as well that are enabling entirely new ways for communication. And if you look at it in the past with fine arts, you could capture the past. You could paint a picture or sculpt something that had happened before. And then with modern arts, you could capture the present. You could take a photograph or a film of what was happening right now. And with the advent of new media arts, we could basically capture the virtual. We could create and realize things that had never existed before. And I believe that these new branches from new media arts are creating entirely new ways of not just storytelling and not just doing design, but also enabling us to do things like predict the future. And I'll show some examples of that a little later on. Now, unlike many other technological advances of the past, I believe that the internet and the World Wide Web have created diversity. Not just diversity in how we consume media and participate with it, but actually how we interact with it, how we understand it, and what we expect going forward. And in addition, information on the web these days is more dynamic and open. It's allowing for more content to suit our needs and to personalize our needs. But if content is king, then context is queen. Context gives us understanding through our own personal lens of experience. Now, if you want to see what innovation looks like, you don't have to look much further than what's happening in the consumer markets and the video games industry. With the advancement of real-time interactive 3D graphics, low-cost, high-powered computer graphics hardware, and new types of input display interfaces, the video games industry is clearly transforming the way others are adopting these technologies to drive deeper, more meaningful relationships, both with digital media and with the people consuming it. Now, in many ways, these technological innovations are ultimately being transformed into rich, immersive, engaging, interactive 3D experiences. And they're enabling entirely new ways of us telling stories and ways of us understanding design information. Now, over the years, many in the film and entertainment industry have used rich, interactive media to tell a story and help others understand complex narratives. Things that would otherwise be too dangerous, too costly, or downright impossible to do using traditional methods of media. Movies like Avatar not only harness technologies and digital media to visualize the content of the narrative, gave life to its characters in amazing new ways, but it also created entirely new ways of making films in light. As James Cameron shot actors on the green screen stage, through his lens in real time, he saw the digital characters performing in their place. And this gave him the ability to make decisions about the film with instant gratification of how the results would be. Sort of like predicting the future, if we would. This has also changed the game in how digital 3D content be captured, animated, and directed all simultaneously. And now we're seeing those same workflows in movies like Gravity, where post-production and pre-visualization can happen in real time. And we're now seeing these methods trickle down to lower-cost solutions thanks to hardware and software innovations that are coming from the consumer markets and from the game industry. I apologize, this is advanced. Can we advance the video? Yeah. So the technologies and methods we just saw have now crossed the threshold into nonfiction. And we're seeing everything from simulation of life at the nanoscale all the way to large cities or even galaxies. And this is allowing us the development of rich, complex narratives using digital content to tell stories and achieve things that you could never experience in the real world, either because they're too small, they don't exist, or they're too dangerous. And now, due largely to exponential growth in computing power, we can have the ability to interact with this information and this content in real time. Now, online games are a great example of technology that facilitates understanding through and experience through rich narrative. Let's see how. Every week, millions of people, including some of our friends, our colleagues, and even those that we work with, spend hours playing online games in highly complex virtual environments, which are massive multiplayer online games. And often they do this with a level of engagement that you won't find when they're at work. These are not just adolescent video games, but they're rich, immersive, interactive 3D environments with narrative quests that have compelling dynamic goals and rewards and even cool avatars. These games also show rich, interactive, real-time stats of the players and their performance in the game in real time. And all of this within a narrative that captivates, immerses the player, and inspires them and motivates them with a sense of direction and purpose. And as we've moved from digital storytelling methods of entertainment and film, it's usually constrained to the director's lens. We can now have real-time interactive 3D worlds where the player is their own director among their own narrative, following a higher epic story of the game. So in these games, players self-organize, they develop skills, and they settle into various roles. And from this, we see leaders emerge that are capable of recruiting, organizing, motivating, and directing large groups of players towards a common goal. Now, one of IBM's global innovation outlooks, it's called Real World's Virtual Leaders. It talks about how massive multiplayer online role-playing games offer a glimpse at how leaders can develop and operate in environments that are highly distributed, they're global, they're hyper-competitive, and they're virtual. Risk-taking and the ability to make decisions quickly are critical to leadership skills. A quote from the report states, "If you want to see what business leadership may look like in 3 to 5 years, just look what's happening in online games." And there's some elements of this future that are already falling into place. For instance, most of us already know that business has become increasingly global. Work teams are more distributed, faster paced, and they're fiercely competitive. And more work is continuing to be conducted virtually and using rich media and technology to bridge previously impassable communication gaps. So imagine for a moment if you could transfer some of the key ingredients of gamification, the gamer's level of engagement, and their ability to take risks and make decisions quickly, along with all the excitement and focus that comes with it, to our offices, to our job sites, and our workplaces among us, through the power of storytelling combined with AAA high-quality graphics. In the CAD world, our customers are authoring highly complex 3D models like this. They're smart, they're intelligent, they have metadata, and they correlate lots with the real world. And this is thanks largely to practices like building information modeling and also to digital prototyping. But since the design process is a series of feedback loops, we really believe that the more freedom that we can give our customers to explore, create, analyze, and repeat iterations of the design, the more understanding we can give designers and their stakeholders to make better, more informed decisions around those designs. The problem with all of this, of course, if you want to put a massive, complex CAD model like this into a game engine, is that you have to do a lot of data preparation. It costs a lot of time and it costs a lot of money to get to that point. And so you have to have that preserve of expertise to really create those experiences. The good news is that Autodesk already has native solutions today that allow CAD designers and engineers to tell stories. So this is InfraWorks 360 that we're seeing here. And this is basically allowing you to aggregate CAD information, BIM information, civil information, and really to tell a story that's rich and immersive. And there's powerful tools, and they work great and they look good. And this one even has now the ability to do some things with VR experiences. But if I wanted, for instance, to take and give someone unconstrained, complete access to see what it's like to drive through a city during rush hour, or what it's like when a crowd of people converge on a stadium, I'd probably use a game engine to do that. Now, this is a Doha interactive simulator that was developed by Parsons Brinckerhoff using the Unreal Game Engine. The data was authored using Autodesk BIM for infrastructure tools, driving accuracy and extensibility all the way from planning through operation and maintenance. And this showcases what one of our leading global customers can do with Autodesk design tools and the power of AAA game engines. But for those of you that don't have that preserve of expertise, that can't create these experiences, you don't have the technical know-how to do this, the drawbacks are obvious. Expert knowledge is required. The turnaround time is slow due to conversion of the data. And there's really no or very extremely limited bidirectional sync between the CAD applications and the design applications in the game engine. So today we're also seeing entirely new types of input to interfaces. Everybody thinks it's Minority Report all over again. And that's really great and fine. And even with mobile interfaces so pervasive in our lives, it's still really hard to create intuitive, easy to use, and very useful applications like this without a deep preserve of expertise of this space. The goal here is to create easy to use, intuitive interfaces in 3-space that go beyond what you can do with a keyboard and mouse, all the while allowing a more natural and intuitive interaction with the 3D designs and the 3D information that we play with. And we're now seeing the emergence of all sorts of new types of display interfaces as well. The fact that companies like Google and Facebook are investing hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars into these new in-display interfaces has pulled VR out of the 90s and into the present, where all sorts of people are seeing new opportunities for utilizing these types of new inputs and displays. And by the way, the hardware costs of these are drastically lower than they were before, thanks to all the miniaturization, thanks to Moore's Law, and all the exponential growth that we've seen in technology today. These are just a few of the other devices that will be coming out next year. So at Autodesk, we're paying attention to this, we're keeping track of this, we're looking at the trends of the early adopters, but by and large, these are large companies now creating these devices, these input displays, and these interfaces. This is also inspiring others in various industries, as we've seen earlier, as well as even those in the film industry, to look at harnessing VR to tell stories in entirely new ways. Now, you're not going to shoot a film the same way as you do traditionally as you are with VR. So this poses a lot of problems and a lot of challenges, and this is why we want to look at this. This is not all about everything's gravy, everything's easy. We have a lot of hard work to do to get into this space, but people believe in it. And the movie Interstellar now has an Oculus Rift experience as well. So this is trends that are already happening now today. And this allows a viewer to basically immerse themselves in the ship that was in the movie, and through partnerships with Lowe's Theaters and the likes. Even our automotive customers are using VR for things like design simulation. So last year at Autodesk University, we had a prototype using our design simulation software, VRED, as an Oculus Rift experience. And today, VRED has now formal Oculus support, and companies like Ford are continuing to push the boundaries on what you can do with VR for design simulation. Even Paul McCartney had a concert, a Farewell to Candlestick Park in San Francisco. That concert cost $500 for a front row seat, and you couldn't see anything. Right now, for the cost of $10, using a Google Cardboard, which is a DIY VR HMD, you can have a front row seat at his piano, if you don't mind experiencing it virtually. Even car companies like Volvo are using low-cost HMDs for VR, like the Google Cardboard, to give you an experience of what it's like to drive behind the wheel. So these are real things that are happening with real companies, not just to explore design during design review, but also to tell stories with designs after the designs happen. We advance. But authoring rich, interactive, immersive experiences is really hard. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time, and a lot of money. But now I'd like to talk about where Autodesk is taking things in light of these new trends and technologies, using basically stuff that's coming from consumer markets and from the game industries. The first through the gates is a game engine called called BitSquid that Autodesk acquired, along with the BitSquid team and all of their technologies of components. And this is basically enabling Autodesk to create new tools that push the limits of authoring real-time interactive 3D visualizations for architects and designers, many of which face challenges placing their designs in context to the real world. The goal of all this is to give our customers the freedom to explore and author rich, interactive 3D experiences using CAD and other 3D design audiovisual content while allowing update abilities between Autodesk modeling applications. This is a preview of internal game engine technology that we have, showing AEC content as a real-time 3D interactive experience. This is not a movie or a rendered out output. This is actually a real-time interactive 3D immersive experience where you have unconstrained access to flow through the design. More often than not, we're showing a developer and owner a render of a video, and they say, well, what's over here? And then you say, oh, well, I'll go back and render for 40 hours, and I'll show you the result. So this is the value that we can get out of this, as much as like we've seen from some of the previous speakers. Okay, so today I've talked about various technologies and trends from gamifying design to drive deeper, more meaningful relationships, both with digital media and the people consuming it. And we can see that media and methods of communications of storytelling are evolving rapidly. They're getting richer, they're getting more immersive and interactive as we go, thanks largely to innovations that are happening in the game engines and the consumer markets. And at Autodesk, we want to leverage and expand on these innovations so that others, without the preservative expertise, have the power to convert complex CAD information into real-time 3D interactive experiences. And that is a set of disruptive innovations I think are going to dramatically change the way we do design and also the way that we tell stories in the future. Thank you.
Right. So that brings us to the end of our sessions here. Just to recap, we do believe that we're entering a period of disruption, that disruption is being heralded by some major trends, access to unlimited computing, fast networks, but really it's a new era of connection of people, connection of data, the ability to connect systems of systems, to explore them in new ways, to connect with different people with different ideas. There are many facets to this connection. It's very multifaceted, and we believe technology is a key enabler of that. We do believe that the game technology plays a key role because it allows many different types of exploration and experimentation in real time with simplified user interfaces. We saw Foldit, we saw some other examples about how this kind of technology enables people to explore their ideas in a connected way. The MMOG that was described by Brian is a prime example of how players are connected together to achieve common goals, which is really what we want very often in these design problems. So we are entering a new era of connection, a new era of disruption, and we do believe that the technology we use will change and evolve and become more interactive and more dynamic, and game technology is a fundamental part of that. So to conclude, I'd like to leave you with a final video showing this new era of connection across what we're doing at Autodesk, some insights to what the future might look like, followed by kind of snacks and beer at the end. And if you have any questions for the panelists, please feel free to come up and talk to them and ask them anything you want to know about what it is they're doing, the technologies they use, why they choose the technologies they use, what they think the future will hold. And I hope to enjoy the rest of AU. And just after this, of course, is the big end keynote. Please attend and enjoy the rest of AU. Thank you very much.